Hello everyone. So this is in continuation of part 1 of Kings and Chronicles. The first video में हमने discuss किया about the Mughal Empire. Then we discussed the importance of chronicles and how chronicles were produced. In this video we'll start with discussing two important chronicles. First is the Akbarnama and second is the Badshahnama. तो नामा का मतलब होता है हिस्ट्री और एपिक और टेल. सो अकबरनामा मीन्स द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अकबर. इट ऑल्सो मीन्स द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द एम्पायर ड्यूरिंग द रूल ऑफ अकबर. देन बादशाहनामा इज़ अबाउट शाहजहाँ. सो अकबरनामा वॉज रिटन बाय अबुल फजल who was one of the court historians of Akbar. So he grew up in Agra and he was proficient in Arabic, Persian, Greek philosophy and Sufism. He was also one of the Navratnas of his court. तो जैसा हमने previous video में भी देखा that Abul Fazl was against the ulema. He opposed the views of the ulema, that is the conservative orthodoxy, the scholars who interpreted the Sharia law. सो एम्परर अकबर का एक ऑब्जेक्टिव था, इट वॉज टू फ्री द स्टेट फ्रॉम द कंट्रोल ऑफ दिस रिलीजियस ऑर्थोडॉक्सी एंड इस आइडिया को प्रोपगेट करने में अबुल फजल प्लेड एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल. सो अकबरनामा लिखनी शुरू की गई इन द ईयर 1589 एंड इट टुक 13 years टू राइट इट. So for writing Akbarnama, a lot of different sources were taken into consideration, a lot of different sources were referred. For example, the actual records of events called Wakai, then official documents of the empire as well as of other regions like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra. Also the oral testimonies of the persons. Testimonies का मतलब होता है बयान. So these are statements which are given by people. Then जैसा हमने पहले डिस्कस किया है, अकबरनामा comprises of 3 books. जो first book है that deals with the history, that is from Timur to Humayun. It also talks about the birth of Akbar. Then the second book is about administration of Akbar and it includes information up to the 46th regnal year of Akbar, that is 46th ruling year, that is till 1601. So Akbarnama contains a detailed description about the rule of Akbar. So the information mentioned in the Akbarnama is written both in the diachronic sense and synchronic sense. अब इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? तो diachronic का मतलब होता है through time or across time. So it measures or maps development over a period of time. So it means that Akbarnama contains information as to how things developed over a period of time during the rule of Akbar. अब synchronic का मतलब होता है describing things at a specific period of time at a specific point of time. That is, ऐसी information थी to understand the inner functioning of the empire. That is, एक particular time पे किस तरह से administer किया जा रहा है empire को. So, Akbarnama presents a diachronic as well as synchronic picture of Akbar's rule. Then lastly, Abul Fazl wrote in an ornate language. ऑर्नेट लैंग्वेज का मतलब होता है इलेबोरेट लैंग्वेज और हाईली डेकोरेटेड लैंग्वेज, जिसे हम फ्लारी लैंग्वेज या पोइटिक लैंग्वेज भी कहते हैं, राइट. एंड ही प्लेस्ड ह्यूज एम्फेसिस ऑन डिक्शन, दैट इज़ द चॉइस ऑफ वर्ड्स एंड रिदम. सो नाउ कमिंग ऑन टू बादशाहनामा. बादशाहनामा वॉज अबाउट द रूल ऑफ शाहजहाँ हु वॉज द ग्रैंड सन ऑफ अकबर. तो बादशाहनामा लिखी गई थी बाय अब्दुल हामिद लाहौरी हु वॉज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ अबुल फजल. सो बादशाहनामा भी 3 वॉल्यूम्स में लिखी गई है. तो जो फर्स्ट 2 वॉल्यूम्स थी दे वर रिटन बाय लाहौरी एंड जो थर्ड वॉल्यूम थी दैट वॉज रिटन बाय अ हिस्टोरियन कॉल्ड वारिस. So these are the 2 chronicles which provide detailed information about the rule of Akbar and Shah Jahan respectively, and they give us insights about the empire. So during the colonial period, in order to better understand the people and the culture of the subcontinent, the British administrators, they started to study these chronicles. Consequently, in the year 1784, Sir William Jones established the Asiatic Society of Bengal. So the Asiatic Society of Bengal is also a monument of national importance and it is also considered as a center of Asian studies. तो जो इसका मेन टास्क था दैट वाज कलेक्शन ऑफ ओल्ड मैनस्क्रिप्ट्स एंड टू इनिशिएट एंड प्रमोट रिसर्च ऑन ह्यूमैनिटीज़. The main objective of this was to facilitate scientific and literary activities. So the Asiatic Society undertook the editing, printing, translation of Indian manuscripts, and it published the first versions of Akbarnama and Badshahnama in the 19th century. Now one last point, in case of chronicles, we've seen that these chronicles were translated from one language to another. So in the case of Akbarnama, it was translated into English by Henry Beveridge. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is the ideal kingdom. So the first subtopic which we have here is a divine light. तो अब जैसे हमने पिछले चैप्टर में डिस्कस किया that through chronicles the emperors they tried to project a vision of the empire. So what can be seen is that chronicles के through it is shown that the power of Mughal kings came from God. तो क्रॉनिकल्स में बहुत सारे लेजेंड्स हैं, बहुत सारे फेबल्स हैं, स्टोरीज़ हैं जिनके थ्रू ये इस्टेब्लिश करने की कोशिश की गई है कि जो मुग़ल किंग्स की पावर है दैट केम डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द गॉड. Now Abul Fazl, who was the famous court historian, he stated that the Mughal kingship is at the highest station in hierarchy of objects receiving light emanating from God. तो ये जो पर्टिकुलर आइडिया है ये इंस्पायर्ड है फ्रॉम शिहाबुद्दीन सुहरवादी, who was an Iranian सूफ़ी. तो अब what does this idea mean? कहा गया है कि जो डिवाइन लाइट है that is transmitted to the king first, because king is the highest one in the hierarchy of objects receiving the light of God. तो divine light सबसे पहले transmit होती है to the king, and then the king becomes the source of guidance, source of spiritual guidance for his subjects. तो इस लाइट एमिनेटिंग फ्रॉम गॉड के लिए एक टर्म यूज़ की गई है विच इज़ फ़र-ए-ज़ादी. तो फ़र या फ़रा का मतलब होता है फॉर्च्यून और ग्लोरी, एंड इज़ादी का मतलब होता है एमिनेटिंग और एस्टैब्लिश्ड फ्रॉम गॉड्स विल, दैट इज़ गॉड की मर्ज़ी से जो एस्टैब्लिश हुआ है. सो थ्रू ऑल ऑफ दिस वी गेट टू नो दैट द मुगल्स दे क्लेम्ड डिवाइन स्टेटस. देन एक और एग्जाम्पल है इस चीज़ का, इट इज़ दैट जो पेंटिंग्स हैं फ्रॉम 17th सेंचुरी ऑनवर्ड्स उसमें दिखाया गया है दैट द एम्परर्स दे आर वेयरिंग हैलो. सो हैलो इज़ बेसिकली अ रिंग ऑफ लाइट. तो यूजुअली जो भी स्पिरिचुअल फिगर्स होती हैं उनमें आपने देखा होगा दैट अ हैलो इज़ मेड सो एज़ टू सिम्बलाइज देयर होलीनेस और पाइटी. And these artists they were inspired by the European paintings of Jesus Christ and Virgin Mary, जिनमें there was this halo made to symbolize the light of God. Right, so this is all about divine light. Now let's come on to the next subtopic, which is a unifying force. तो अब we've seen कि जो मुग़ल एम्पायर था that was a multi-ethnic and multi-religious kingdom, that is people from different faiths like Hinduism, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, Islam, all were a part of the Mughal empire. तो इतना डाइवर्स होने के बावजूद what was it that was unifying the empire? तो जो यूनिटी या एकता की फोर्स थी that was the emperor. So he was the source of peace and stability of the empire. So now Abul Fazl he describes the ideal of सुलह-ए-कुल. सुलह का मतलब होता है एग्रीमेंट एंड कुल का मतलब होता है फैमिली. So this idea of सुलह-ए-कुल represents the idea of absolute peace. So the idea of सुलह-ए-कुल means that all religions and schools of thought had freedom of expression, that people following different traditions, different cultures, different religions, they are living peacefully and harmoniously, and there is unity in the empire. So the preconditions to Sulh-e-Kul were that first, that it should not undermine the authority of the state, that is it should not threaten the authority of the state, and second is that people of different cultures should not fight among themselves. So basically a person can exercise his right to religion and his freedom of expression fully till the time it does not become a problem for the state. How was this idea of Sulh-e-Kul propagated? तो इसके लिए द स्टेट नोबिलिटी was responsible for spreading this idea far and wide. So there were policies which were made through which this idea was implemented. And then these nobles used to get rewards for their services. Also, some examples of the fact that religion was not a dominant criteria in the state affairs is that लोगों को जो भी positions मिलती थी या जो भी awards मिलते थे, that were purely on the basis of their service and their loyalty towards the empire. Then Emperor Akbar, he abolished the tax on pilgrimage, that is तीर्थ यात्रा पे जो टैक्स लगता था उसको abolish कर दिया गया in 1563, and even jizya, that is a tax which was imposed on non-Muslims for their protection, that was also abolished in 1564. Further, the kings used to provide for grants or support for the construction of places of worship. However, one thing to note here is that during the rule of Aurangzeb, this particular tax of jizya, this was reimposed. The next subtopic which we have is just sovereignty as social contract. तो sovereignty का मतलब होता है independence, that is you are not under the control of any other person or any other body. तो sovereign होता है king or the emperor. Just sovereignty का मतलब है sovereignty which is exercised on the basis of fairness. Then social contract के बारे में हमने पढ़ा था when we discussed chapter 4 which is thinkers, beliefs and buildings. तो उसमें हमने discuss किया था that there are three main propounders of this theory of social contract, which is Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau. So I'm not going into the detail of social contract. However, basically social contract का मतलब है that in order for the state to come into existence, the subjects, that is the people who are ruled, and the emperor, the king, they enter into a social contract. तो emperor is not something different. emperor जो है वो subjects में से ही choose किया जाता है. So there is a contract between both these sides. तो एक contract होता है between the emperor and the subjects. तो emperor ensure करता है that he will protect the life, property, honor, faith of the subjects, and subjects then enter into a contract with the emperor as well as among themselves. तो emperor के साथ जो वो contract करते हैं उसमें वो कहते हैं that they will pay obedience to the emperor, that they will follow whatever the emperor will say. एंड जो सब्जेक्ट्स आपस में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करते हैं उसमें ये होता है दैट दे विल शेयर ऑल दी रिसोर्सेज. तो दिस इंश्योर्स दैट एक जस्ट स्टेट कम्स इनटू एग्जिस्टेंस, दैट इज़ अ स्टेट विच इज़ गाइडेड ऑन द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ जस्टिस. So justice was considered as the highest virtue of the Mughal monarchy. There were a number of symbols used to portray this idea of justice. For example, there were motifs of a lamb and a lion resting next to each other. The lamb is a baby sheep. तो इस motif से ये दिखाया गया है that the weak and the strong, they can coexist, that is they can exist in harmony in the Mughal Empire. So this is all for this video. In the next video, we'll be discussing some very important topics like the physical arrangement of the Mughal court, the imperial household, the administration of the empire, and so on. Thank you so much for watching.